So we'll kick some things off and people can roll on in as they come. It's our last one for 2026, and we will kick back off in February, only because date-wise, it's going to fall on the 2nd of January. I myself will be out, maybe some of the rock guys will be out. Let everyone ease back into the new year, and we'll catch you for open mic come February. That's on the Aussie side. I will double check on the US side, and I'm sure those recordings will get sent out as normal. But otherwise, to kind of kick things off, let's head over to Jake for updates, because you do them so well, Jake.
Thank you so much. All right, let me share the old screen and let's get into some updates. All right, so there's been a few updates across. No, I guess since we last did meet in the open mic, and we also have some cool new things that are coming, which we can also have clients register for, which I'll speak about a bit further on. But for the product updates, we have now officially released the CIPP integration as a native integration, right? And we've had some good feedback and leeway into having clients incorporate CIPP into their environment using the integration, right? We are also expanding this out, which I'll speak about a bit later, but we have also got some workflows coming, and those workflows should be coming within the next sort of few weeks, right? This was also demoed I believe it was last Friday from Calvin. He had a CIPP demonstration, which we can probably grab and present to you all. But he demonstrated a few different functions using the CIPP integration, right? So from there, we have also got Aerosphere as a new integration has come. And Aerosphere is for license procurement, cloud services, hardware and software management. And we've also done some improvements to the Notion API. So we've updated their new API structure, which prevents breaking changes. And we have got a few updates about Robo Rewsty as well, right? So with Robo Rewsty, we have essentially improved the guardrails. And with those guardrails, we didn't want to have anything, with malicious behavior, nor any sort of bad words come into the context. And if that guardrail was triggered, it could actually disrupt the conversation and end it, kind of thing, or throw out the weird error. But we've also made improvements to performance. So we continually, increasing the performance of the responses that you will receive from Rewsty. And then we've also done some bug fixes. So with the chat history, if you notice, it sort of just disappeared when you popped it out into a new window and brought it back in, right? That was a bug that has now been quashed or squashed, right? And the results analysis improvements are also now live. So I'll show you a bit of that when we get to the demonstration, right? So the last thing we saw at Robo Rewsty is we do have, from the advisory of Daniel today, he did say that he has seen the demonstration of the Robo Rewsty workflow builder. So based on a prompt, Rewsty being able to build out your workflows. This is being planned to be sort of beta tested in December with a full release in sort of that January period, right? So there is a channel on Discord that you can enter. And if you wanted to beta test that feature, we could get you enrolled into that feature rollout, right? So we'll get that to you. Does anyone have that link on the rock handy for the channel, the Rewsty channel? Because we'll provide it into the team channel here, and you can sign up in that forum. We've also done some stuff with MCP. So that MCP trigger is also coming into fruition soon. Again, should be released sort of that next year, right? So Robo Rewsty can operate autonomously and communicate with your AI that's hosted within your own environment, right? Now with the workflow canvas, right? We do also have, the V2 that's been coming. I'm sure you might have seen the sneak peeks when Daniel shares his screen. But essentially, when it comes to the sort of canvas optimizations currently, we have made some stark improvements to the optimized the canvas in general. So you'll notice now it's more smooth in a bigger workflow, and that does sort of lead to, or does relate to lazy loading, right? But essentially over the next year or in 2026, We are going for 10x processing power increase, or a 10x processing power increase. So just to give you some metrics, right? We have sort of 4 regions across the world that host instances, right? We get about 1.5 to 1.7 billion tasks monthly and 180,000 messages a minute across these 4 regions, right? So we are doing some database optimizations so we can scale out that load, and also are improving, the workflow canvas performance, right? So they're the main updates for product. Oh, yes, and other one thing I mentioned as well is ConnectWise ASIO is releasing supposedly next week, right? So the integration for that is upcoming next week. Now, for marketplace updates, we did release 2 new crates. So for DropSuite to create a new account, this is going to be released early December, and DropSuite monitoring of backups, which will also be released in early December, right? So the new account creation adds users to backup monitoring, so OneDrive, SharePoint, and shared mailboxes. And for monitoring backup, this monitors all DropSuite triggers, auto creates PSA tickets, and auto closes tickets on resolution, right? And also some addition to the crates, right? We did end up adding the New Zealand usage location as an org variable. So for all my fellow New Zealanders out there, that's now a native function when configuring org variables through the form, right? That feature wasn't there before, but now it is, right? We've also added Anthropic to the AI ticket categorization. So for the sentiment analysis crate, that is a model you can now select from, as opposed to using OpenAI. And we have also added some DropSuite additions into the onboarding form, as well as the offboarding and billing count report form, right? So just embedded some functionality. But also in the billing count report, we have added TD Synnex Australia, as well as TD Synnex Stream 1 Ion and TD Synnex Stellar, right? So that was a lot of requests to have that be part of these workflows. So we have now incorporated these vendors into those workflows, right? So as for training, we do have a few new courses which will provide some good value to you, right? So 3 ways to start using RoboRewsty. So this is a sort of guide and course on things like prompt engineering and to best get value from actually using RoboRewsty with regards to prompting appropriately to get the right answer for what you need, right? And also some of the functionalities that it also has built in, right? The next thing is the impact framework, and course. I'll be showing this a little bit after in the demonstration, but this is the course behind how to go through and run an impact framework analysis. And this is basically to just do a costing analysis on Rewst as a whole, right? Now, we've also got a good course here for also building branded Rewst forms. So this is, requested by a lot of clients. And now we do have a course on how you can brand out your forms, your Rewst forms to be aligned with your color scheming and so forth with your business color scheming and logo, right, mainly. But we also do have this here. Now, this automation lab is a live training session, and it happens at 4 to 5 a.m., AEST, right? So if you're really up early and keen, we do also have that coming. But what I'll do now is I'll change my screen and we'll go into the small demonstration that I have for today. So we'll start with this. And now I have shared this with some of the clients that I have worked with, right? But the impact framework analysis is essentially an automation ROI calculator, right? So you can scope out or project your future plans for automations, right? So in this form here, you can do it either for internal usages, or if you wanted to propose it to a client, you could also create one for your client, right? Now, in this selection box here, you can see you can select some predefined use cases such as employee onboarding, offboarding, password resets. In this example, I just filled it out with ticket triage, right? Once you fill out these different fields, it will dynamically update the live calculation at the bottom here, right? Now, it updates each field or each calculation per the block, right? So for this one here, it correlates the data being put into here, right? Measuring risk, right? Because that is sometimes unforeseen when you are building automations, right? So having the risk be input here does also add error rate into the live calculation, so you can plan out or project for that. as well as project investment, right? If you are investing or intending to get a developer on board, right, you can fill out all these costs. And at the bottom here, you essentially get a live ROI calculator, right? And you can sort of scope out, okay, well, how much we're going to save annually, monthly, right? In the first year, what's our ROI projection to be, right? And then you can track that against your Rewst usage and get a better gauge on the numbers behind it, right? So you can either go one step further, and the big buzzword right now is AI, but you can also use AI to review it further, right? And you can transform this into an action plan, right? So that course is also tied to this, or this website, I guess you could say, is tied to this course here. So if you wanted more information, you could go through and understand it more in depth, right? So this is the other course I mentioned before, right? So how to use RoboRewsty. Again, this helps with prompt guidance, prompt engineering, you could call it, right? As well as some of the features that RoboRewsty can sort of have, or features you can use from RoboRewsty, right? And then as mentioned before, we have the branding of the Rewst forms, right? A course on that. And if you're really keen to get up, within this time of the morning, we do have a live session on the just-in-time admin access, which I have been chilling a lot because this workflow here is quite brilliant to provision that new global admin with a temporary password, right? So we're nearly done with my little demonstration, right? In this workflow here, right, we can see the CIPP actions, right? We are adding more as we do work with the CIPP team, right, to get these stable endpoints be put into Rewst, right? So we're going to have user management as well as GNet management. As for right now, it's primarily tenant management and domain health, right? So we can see here, these are the endpoints we have actionable, right? Now, in the execution, right, in this workflow, we can see here that for CIPP, right, all we're doing here is pulling in the tenant information, right? So it has the full ability to do that with domain health and tenant moderation, right? And if I cancel this and go to here, you can see we're using the action to get the demarc policy, right? But taking it one step further, right? And this is now some of the functionality that is native to RoboRewsty. So you can see here, when I open up the execution, it can now debug or give me further answers based on understanding the execution in a deeper sense, right? So this is the recent improvement that we've made, and now it is live in Rewsty. So I guess throwing it back to the people on the call, any questions on anything I spoke about? Beautiful. So if you've got any questions, feel free to either post it into the Teams channel or onto Discord, and we'll be able to help you out. So I'm going to throw it now back to Sarah and conclude my short demonstration. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. I am popping a Christmas edition rapid fire would you rather in the chat, and answer it wisely. Be a little game, keep things fun, keep it lighthearted. Christmas is coming up. I've actually never tried eggnog. Does anyone know what it's made up of? Eggnog? Me neither.
Yeah, mostly like eggs and cream.
Eggs and cream.
Yeah.
Sounds delightful.
I know, yeah, it's pretty full on. I would recommend finding a recipe for an eggnog cheesecake, and that is a much better use of the flavors, and yeah, it's pretty good. Eggs and nog, I like it.
Eggs and nogs. I'm gonna use that one. Oh, eggnog whiskey. Okay.
Jake, Home Alone question mark?
Yeah, just I don't know. I just copied the question, right? So I was we'll adjust it. We'll adjust that to something a bit more appropriate. Exclamation point.
The best hot chocolate is also spiked. Never tried those ones. No tree. God, my children would throw a tantrum. Actually, this morning I was taking my kids to daycare, and they have their Christmas party tonight. And one of the teachers was actually taking the Christmas tree from like the walk-in reception area to their other daycare center because that's where they're doing the party. My kids were devastated. They thought it was the Grinch stealing Christmas and they were turning Christmas off and it was a whole thing. I'm like, it's okay. We're just moving the tree, guys. They're not taking it away. We're just moving it to another location. Oh, does anyone have a real tree? No. I thought about buying one, but then I was like, spiders and bugs. I already live on a farm. I've already got enough things crawling around.
I've done a real tree once. I'm not doing it again.
Not again. Is it messy? I feel like it would be really messy.
It can be. It also depends on how quickly you put it down afterwards. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes my tree will stay around for a while.
Yeah. So I'm motivated to pack it back up. It's a whole mission, isn't it? It's a day event in itself to pack up. I can reuse my fake tree. Yeah, that's it.
100%.
Oh, they get sappy. I didn't know that. Yeah, definitely not. I was contemplating getting a real tree this year. It's not going to happen. Sap, no thank you. Oh, no. Eggnog. We have an eggnog. How good. All right, guys, thanks for joining in on that. Let's jump over to Ray, who has a demo for us.
Okay, let me share my screen and this should be fun. But let me know once you can see the screen.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so what I want to show you is something that Daniel D. Actually, does anyone here know how to say Daniel D's last name? Brian Eldon. I don't want to try and say it.
Daniel with an A.
No, it's a very different Daniel. But anyway, Daniel worked out something on that's close enough, Eldon. Worked out some things specifically about custom integration. So as you'll see on my screen, I've got a number of custom integrations installed here, some that are really, really important that everyone should have. But yeah, like Star Wars. One of the issues you've got with custom integrations, though, is org mapping specifically, right? There are custom integrations out there that do not allow you to do organizational mapping because it's either not built into the API, it doesn't create an array, it doesn't manage any of that. But you can actually go through and use Rewst to start doing your own org mapping. So what I'm actually doing here, I've gone and created a workflow and I'm using that workflow to generate the list of client IDs and labels, and then using that as the endpoint that I'm using for my org mapping. So there are APIs out there that might return an object that has a list of all your client IDs, org IDs and names and all the other values you would need for actual organizational mapping to work. So what you can do is I've just generated a fake API response here. So here's what I might get back. Doesn't have to be an array. I've just made it an array to make my life easy. But you could just get a list of fake company names and other data back. I'm then just generating basically an options list like I would an opsgen. So options, and it's got the customer details. So if I just go ahead and test this, all it's going to do in an options, here's my ID, here's my name. And then all I'm doing is I'm writing all of these values to organizational variable. So here I'm writing it to a thing called fake orgs. And the important part is I'm converting the JSON into a JSON stringified string. So if I just go down to organization variables, fake orgs, you'll just see here's the stringified list that I just had. Now, to make it work though, I've then come up here and I've made a webhook. And all the webhook's doing, post or get, really doesn't matter. But I'm getting it in the response body to get the org variables.fake orgs list. So it's just going to return the list of the org mappings for me. I've also got a secret key, so this way I can post from the custom integration and keep my organization list secure and private. The important part here is if you're using a response body to get an org variable, you want to ensure that wait for results is set to false, because I'm not worried about the workflow running. Every time the workflow runs, I'm saving the updated list into the, I clicked off it. I'm saving the updated list into my org var, but the next time I hit refresh in the integration itself, it's then getting that list. So how do you do that side? Because that's probably the more important bit. So in your integration, and I'll just go back to the beginning, set up your integration as normal, set up all your API calls and import the Swagger doc in. Within here, because we need a paginated endpoint, this this custom integration that I've made is completely fake. It doesn't do paging. It doesn't do anything. I just need to make sure I've got a pagination method here with fake information so I can use a paginated endpoint to call the organization variables. So all I'm actually doing in the organization mapping here, I've made a new endpoint called organization mapping. It's posting to my Rewst webhook URL. Under pagination, I'm looking for options because as you saw before, I'm putting all the values in an options key. And then in the output schema, I'm just doing an object to an array, which is options with the ID and name that I am growing over here. So that way, every time it maps, it's just literally using these IDs and names in the integration itself. As long as you come up the top and make sure you've marked it as paginated and you've got the schema output and you put a result here, when I hit finalize, it lets me generate an organization mapping using that webhook. So now all that really means is I can come back to the integration itself and I can now hit refresh. It will go off and run a new execution of this workflow, which then comes back in here and I've now got all the organizations and the IDs from the API that I'm just using to be able to come in and then map them to the organization as I need them. And then because of the way that this all works, if I go back to here, if you go back to the point where you get this organization value, which is this one, so the variable key, I can then use that anywhere within my any workflow I run, and we can use that key, which will get the ID that I'm passing through, and you can use in your integrations. So you can use the org var that the webhook to custom integration to fake paging to the mapping, use that wherever you need it for your API endpoints to know which client you're under. So if you were doing a workflow with this, go here. So if I was coming up here and adding an integration override for my fake mappings and all of those, I'd be able to then come in here and make sure it's just using the client mapping as normal. And it will just work. Now, the second part to that, and if anyone's got any questions as I go through, just either let me know, put your hand up, whatever. You can also do org mappings for other things that don't even work for organizational mappings for you. So a good example might be Windows Defender. And I've got to thank Gary from OneCloud for helping me with this one. Where is it? Because sometimes the endpoint that you're hitting will not support multiple organizations full stop. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you set it up, it gives you an auth ID and auth secret. And by default, it will not allow you to map to anything. But you can sort of do the same thing where you go into the API. It's already got its own set of paging, so I don't need to worry about that. And then under actions, I've come in and made a fake entry called org mappings, just made it orgs, and I made another output schema, an object and array, another object and ID. So this will not do a thing, but what it does allow me to do, since I've made it a paginated item, I can go through and go, yes, I want to org map this. Why would you do this? It now means that when I'm back in the integration itself, I can disable default because I don't want it as a default for anyone. We don't want it to fall back to ours. But you can come up here and hit add configuration, and I could call it my org2. I'm in here. All I need to do is put in a fake client ID and password for the moment, just so I can hit save. But then it will give me a list of paginated endpoints. At this point, I can just type something in here, save the mappings there. And if I go back to my default, it now knows that this is currently set for my org2. Why this is important, I can come over to here now and just add in anything from the Microsoft Defender integration that I've just set up, come and create a new trigger. And I can just force it to use org mapping and no default. So as long as I'm running this workflow as a client that I've mapped, so for this example, if I select Raise Demo 2, and then when I test it and choose Raise Demo 2 org, it is now going back and it's using the client auth details that's in my org2 that's configured here. So you could have every one of your customers set up here with their own client ID and secret for Windows Defender, and then you can write one workflow, use the org mapping for it to automatically know which organization you're after, and then map in. I'm seeing a lot of interesting faces. Does anyone have questions on what I'm doing or how this is relevant to you or why it might be useful?
That's really cool. I just can't think of a use case where I want to use it. If you could find me one of those, that'd be great.
Go and do some Windows Defender for endpoints.
Nah, I'd rather not, thanks.
I think I've got one, and then we'll turn it into a question. So, because I think I've asked this before, like in the app builder, like let's just say I'm gonna, like the app builder is client facing pretty much, and I'm like, well, that's cool and all. Can we build an app builder for my team? You know, and we can do that, but it runs under our organization. So you're saying you could potentially use this to run it like an app builder page for my team, but also, you know, have it run against the other organizations.
As long as you're using a workflow and a trigger linked with it and you've got it set up right, you should be able to do it. I know Michael's looking at a little bit quizzily. I think he's thinking about it. He doesn't know. Short answer is
that the general gist of it though?
You should be able to. I haven't tried to use this in App Builder. This is more so that what I have seen is, let's say you're thinking of, what's another API? Adobe Creative Cloud, for instance, doesn't have client IDs. You need to do it per customer. You could then do one integration, make sure you've got everything set up properly in the single integration, and then just keep on adding all your different org configurations here with their own unique client ID and secret. It means you don't have to constantly go through, go to the next client, go back in, go and recreate the integration and pull it in and set it all up. You only set up the integration once and then you're doing different client auth. And it's all just running from your top level, which means that it makes it a hell of a lot easier for you to manage, since you're just writing the workflow once at your MSP level, and it's just going to know which organization it should run under when you just run that sub workflow or action as that organization that you're trying to do it with. And yeah, Eldon's right. You can make a drop down with all your orgs and have all the variables pull from a client. And he's used that builder to create a dashboard that does that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely can do it. So Brian, does this answer the questions and the issues you were having with custom integrations with the mapping and what you were trying?
For the mapping portion, yeah, it's still frustrating when you have to edit a task and it caches it for too long, but that's a different problem.
Yeah, but this should get you sorted with that issue that you had. And that's pretty much it for my demo. Anyway, I had these two different bits and pieces. I don't believe I've covered everything in what I've created and the different ways you can make our custom integrations multi-tenant aware. Does anyone have any questions or things they want to ask or show off? Because we definitely do have some time. Or if you've been working on something, you want some help finishing off, we can help with that too.
It's too close to Christmas. Everyone's winding down now, I think.
Yeah.
Friday Arvo.
100%.
Love it. I don't know about where everyone's at, but in Sydney it is hot today. We've just about clocked 40 at home, which is delightful. I'm looking at out there like I'm not walking out there. So not yet. Not till at least peak heat's over. All right, guys, well, we might wrap things up. If anyone has any questions, by all means, drop a message in your private Discord channel. The team will reach out. I'm always available and around. You can shoot me an email. I know a lot of you guys have that. Otherwise, we'll catch you in the new year, and I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas. Stay safe over the holidays, and stay cool, because I think it's going to be a hot one this weekend. Take care, everyone.